I'm reading my name, and I didn't push the start recording button. What an idiot. God dang. I need to be locked up. I do, or at least supervised. This is the new Caribou, the Honorable Sir David, Emperor of Salt Lake City, Sultan of Utah, Spiritual Advisor to Questioning Mormons, the Bard Extraordinaire, Supreme Being, Alpha and Omega. And I did rehire Omega. He moved the damn fan. He's the he's the sound man. Okay, here is a video. Now, I can do this. I have a master's degree or so, a 2, and many post-credit and school in law and whatever. And 45 years of counseling human beings. I want to talk about the word abuse. Now, this is an interesting word in the English language. Abuse can go anywhere from a child wants 2 scoops on his ice cream, you only give him 1, and he goes, abuse, abuse, I'm calling 911, and then it can go all the way over to the other side where the man wants to be handcuffed and tied down and beat with a whip. And pretty soon he's not allowed up. The wife keeps him there for days or months or years, and now he starts to go abuse, abuse. It's a funny word. There should be many words describing abuse in the English language. There's not. Everybody loves that word because it comes with such dignity and such power and such fear. Now, let me tell you, as a social worker, I have a degree, my graduate degree, no, I didn't get a graduate degree from BYU. My undergraduate degree at BYU is social work. And I'm not an MSW, I'm not a BM counselor, or an ADA, or MBC, or ZBA. I don't put anything behind the initials of my name except WTF. The Bard, WTF. So anyway, abuse, as a social worker, I've been what's called a mandated reporter most of my life. Now, again, your laws in your states, I'm in here down in Australia, and the kangaroos will yell abuse many, many times. Especially when you try to ride them, they'll scream abuse, and most of them now have cell phones, and they go, hey, 991, or 911. Well, 991 is what we use down here in Australia, and the GPS ain't worth shit because it's such a big country. When the operator answers, the kangaroo says, I'm being ridden by the Bard, I'm being abused. And they go, where the hell are you? And he says, don't you have me on the GPS? And he goes, yeah, but we didn't think there was any land where you're jumping. So anyway, as a social worker, abuse has a life of its own. Now, I'm almost 65. I've been a father since I was 19, or 20. I married at 19, and I have 14 kids. So I have a little bit of perspective of the definitions and the implementation of abuse laws, at least in the United States. I'm here in Australia now, and I'm studying kangaroo abuse. I thought you could ride the suckers, but anyway. When I was a young father, and my first baby was born in the 60s, about 69, 68, you could spank a baby back then, no question. If they fell down in Walmart with a Hershey bar in their hand going, I want the candy, I want the... You could say, you son of a bitch, put that candy back or I'm going to kick your ass. Hit them 2 or 3 times or 8 times on the butt, and the rest of the parents are going, yeah, that kid's a brat. So that wasn't abuse back then. Don't try that today in Walmart. Don't try that in public anywhere today. That law has changed a lot, and perhaps rightfully so, but there's certain consequences to the change of that law. I think it's wonderful that parents who are assholes, who like to really cause pain to their children, and bruises and welts, and they're angry when they hit and spank their children, and head injuries, they should be stopped right in their tracks. That's way too much, way too much. And children are safer under the abuse laws, and wives especially. I remember when I was first married, there was no such thing as rape between a man and a woman who were married. A woman could say, no, 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 and he'd go, yes, 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 lay down here, and he could rape her, and she had no recourse under the law. None. She was a sexual machine, and he had a license to ride that machine. So that abuse part of womanhood has certainly been corrected over the years. It used to be that a woman, of course you know, couldn't vote. Many times they were not allowed to have a license to a car, and they couldn't own property and have their own property. Well, that's changed, and women are not abused today that way. There's certainly the child pornography laws are wonderful all over. The United States does take child pornography very serious, and it should. And people who engage in making and storing and, you know, girls that are under 18 years old should be in trouble. So abuse, especially of children, has changed a lot. Now, let's bring it up to the modern day because I want to. So, in modern day, now I had a son, well, he's still my son, Aaron. I haven't disowned Aaron. He's autistic, and his IQ is 52. And I fought my whole life for that child to be educated and taught to train and toilet train and be somewhat independent. And he is. Special education laws in California are wonderful. In Utah, you might as well put the kid in hell, put him over in a corner and give him a coloring book, and that's special ed in Utah. That and senior abuse. Now, many of you abuse me. You tease me. You make fun of the way I look. You refuse to send me money. I have no food, and I have nowhere to sleep but on the floor of this office, which is dirt. So, elder abuse, I think that's a good thing, because children steal money, you know, from their parents and their Social Security checks, and they don't buy medications, and mom and dad lay in bed in their feces, and the children run funny with the money, having fun. So, child abuse, let me focus on that, because that's been more of my field, because I have an undergraduate minor in child development and family relationships. Now, here's the problem. Children's behavior has not improved over the last 45 or 50 years. They're still the same damn asshats they were when we were hitting them with boards. Now, boards work a lot better. You know, I found that if you hit the kid on the side of the head with a 2x4, his ears open up. There's some kind of a connection between their attitude and their butt. I can't find this on an anatomy chart, but it's there. Now, these days, you got to be really careful. You hit that child on the side of the head, that's pretty much going to be looked at as abuse because of head injuries to children. If you hit girls in places where their uterus or their ovaries are, or their breast, that can be certainly abuse. You got to be very careful. And I had a situation in residential treatment where one of the boys, the staff, accidentally, in trying to restrain the kid, hit him in the crotch. I had to take the kid to the hospital, and it was, you know, not a criminal offense at that point, because I was the director, and I said it was an accident. And it was. That was the truth. So, where can you go? What can you do? My son Aaron, the reason I brought him up is I lived in California, Ojai, California, where I was raised. And Aaron, when he found out, excuse me, about 911, he'd call them all the time. And they'd come over all the time. Because basically, in abuse or 911 calls in most states, they have to show up. You can't just talk them out of it. Or if you hang up, they'll come to the address no matter what. Well, the police and the fire department and the I was going to say the snipers, but they're the paramedics. God dang, my brain is mushy. They always, gosh, they always showed up. So anyway, eventually, when Aaron called 911, the police chief would call me back, and he'd say, David, Mr. Bard, is that Aaron calling again? And I said, yes, sir, it is. And he says, is he okay? And I said, yeah, he's okay. He says, all right, we're not coming. I said, all right, that's fine. If you want to come, come. So they quit coming for Aaron. Well, nowadays, the kids are taught in about 3rd grade, 2nd and 3rd grade, about 911 and about spousal. They're not usually married in 3rd grade. I was. But anyway, the children know, call 911, and the police show up. Now, I had a funny situation here with my girls, little Abby. She's 14 now, and oh my gosh, she is such a beautiful child. And she's trying out for the basketball team. She was on the track team last year. And she's just a beautiful person. She's a straight A student. Didn't even speak English 2.5 years ago. So she decided to try 911 just to see if it works in the United States, because, you know, she's born in the Philippines. And so she dials 911, and she didn't think it worked. So I happen to be sitting in the dining room, and I get a knock at the front door, and I open it, and the police are there. I go, are you a Danite dressed up like a policeman? He goes, no, no. We got a 911 call from here. Then I said, really? I said, I didn't make it. He said, well, do you have any other people in the house? I said, yeah, Alpha and Omega and the Holy Ghost. And by the way, I have 2 Filipino children in the house. He says, well, can I talk to them? And I said, sure. Come on in. No problem. He came in, and he looked at Allison, and she's so sweet and kind, you know. He goes, well, it's not this one. Then he looks at the 14-year-old, and he says, you have a teenager. I said, yeah, I've been cursed that way, you're right. So he says to Abigail, did you call 911? And she goes, well, yes and no. And he says, well, what do you mean, yes and no? Well, I didn't mean to call 911, but I did. So he took her aside and said, stop that shit. If you're not being aggrieved in some way, you don't use 911 that way. And she learned, and she hasn't done that since. So I can beat her like a rock. She doesn't call. I'm just teasing, social services. I'm just teasing. But the kids learn very early. Now, what can you do? Okay, well, and again, I've got the same problems in my family, all my 14 kids, as you guys do. As they get older, it gets harder, because you tell them to go in their room, and they say, screw you. And in the old days, I'd grab them by the shirt, slam them on the wall, and say, excuse me, could you repeat that so I could hear it better? Well, these days, you can't do that. You know, there's no handles on their shirts. So, what do? And mothers and fathers are very different. Usually one of the people is more strict than the other, and the child says no. Now, what do? You can take them by the arm and drag them. If they throw themselves, they'll always throw themselves on the ground, because they don't want to go easy. They want to go where you're working, and hopefully they've got you screaming. Well, you can't really scream at them as much as you'd like to. And so they throw themselves on the ground, and you drag them in their room, and you say, stay here. So you go back out and sit on the couch. The monsters, they grow tails and horns, and they come out of their room. Now, you can't knock the horns off of their head, and if you pull their tail, you're going to jail. So what the hell do you do? So you say to the child, you're grounded until you're 200 years old. And they go, I don't care. My kids all have damn TVs, Wii's, and cable in their room, and iPhones. They go, put me on grounded. I don't care. I don't have any friends. I don't want to go anywhere anyway for 200 years. And so they walk around the house, and they're still being obnoxious. Well, now you got to be smarter than children, and some adults aren't. They're just not. And so that's when they get their gun and they shoot the child. And you go, nah, he wouldn't go in his room. Well, you can't do that shit, okay? So I have 2 girls now. I had, I forget, 9 girls and 5 boys or something. And now I can say, give me your iPhone. And that I can take away from them, even if they're running with it, holding it in the air. I'm still old, but I'm fast. And I can get the iPhone, and I'll say to them, because they paid for these things. I don't pay for a lot of the extras that the children have. I like them to spend their money for that. And I tell them, I'm going to throw the your iPhone in the pod or in the toilet if you don't go in your room. Ah, shit. So they go in their room. Well, that's one way to do it. The other one is, you remember Netflix? And they go, yeah. You're never going to see another movie on Netflix. I'm having the cable and the Netflix pulled out. Oh, I'll go to my room. So off they go. They go to their room. And you have to realize they're growing up. And it's natural to rebel. And what is there to rebel against except us as parents? Now, some of my children, and I'm not going to name names, children can be abusive to parents. And I've thought about calling 911, but when the policeman comes over and sees a 290-pound man and a little tiny Filipino girl or a little boy who's 14, he goes, "You're being abused?" I go, "Yes, I'm going crazy." And they never take you serious. Now, I've had my kids, I've got kids that have slammed doors that the neighbors have called the police that the door has slammed so hard. And I've put closers, Norton closers on certain doors of certain kids so they can't slam the door. It won't go slamming. And if the door doesn't slam, damn, you're just sitting there, and in 3 or 4 minutes they're throwing shit in their room against the wall. The goldfish, he's on the ground, you know, trying to find water. And, you know, they'll scratch your walls, and they'll set fires, and they'll kick the TV screen out. And when they say, you stay in your room, and you live on the 20th floor, they'll climb out the damn window with sheets. So I have to sometimes take a drill and screw a screw into the window, into the stationary window, so the window doesn't open. I learned that from BYU because so many kids were jumping out the windows at Desert Towers. They screwed the windows shut, so I learned that. So the kids can chase you with knives, which mine have. The kids can throw shit at you, which mine have. And the kids can say, I'm calling 911, and I say, good, because I'm calling juvenile hall, and you can live with all the bubbas. And I don't care. You know, if you want to live with bubba women and all the lesbians, I don't care. I'm calling 911 too, so they calm down there. And there are very few, and there's some unique situations that are called restraints. Now, if a person is clearly, now be careful of that word, if they're clearly a danger to themselves or to other people, you can restrain them. Now, you got to be damn careful. You better read what restraints are and how to do a restraint, not leaving any marks on anybody, not hurting anybody, but simply restraining them from the behaviors that they're engaging in until they cry themselves to a point where they're too tired to do shit. Now, I had one of my kids climb up on the ceiling, and we have cathedral ceilings. I thought she was going to jump on the ceiling fan and go round and round, and I thought, God, this is dangerous. If she fell off on somebody, it would hurt them, and it might hurt her falling off on the ground. So I considered that a restrainable situation. And you know, in my days when I was doing residential treatment, you could take their arms like this and put them in a basket hold and hold them. But some of the kids, they're tough. They'll pinch you, they'll try to bite, they'll scratch you, and they kick and kick and kick, and it's hard to stop their feet. You can wrap your legs around their legs and get some control, but the older the child is, you know, you try to take down an 18-year-old, you better be capable of doing that, and you've got to be very careful. You can break arms, and you can leave marks, And that, when she goes to school, the teacher is going, as a mandated reporter, she has to call social services, and then they have to come out and talk to you. Why are you sitting on the child? She was on the ceiling like a fly. She was throwing the fish bowl. She was killing the fish. She was tipping the TV out of her window to throw down on the next walking person. She stole the keys to the car and said she's driving back to Europe. So anyway, you got to be really, really careful. You got to love the kids, and you have to be careful not to be too mad. Now, I'm telling you, as an adult, it's hard not to be mad when they're destroying shit we've paid for and shit we're gonna have to pay for and embarrassing us, like throwing themselves down in Walmart and going to school and saying, Mom and Dad don't feed me. And there's another situation. You have to let children have reasonably 3 meals a day, and they have to get a drink of water when they want, and they have to go to the bathroom. Any deprivation of those things is abuse. You can't put a small child in a room and turn the light off, and they're scared of the dark. That's abuse. You can't lock a child in a closet or their room. If there's a fire, most social workers like me would go, no, it's too dangerous. You better learn how to control this child better. Now, you can not let them go to McDonald's. That's fair, as long as they have other food. And you can withdraw privileges and candy and those extra things. You can also tell them, you can give them work, reasonable work. Now, you can't take an 8-year-old and tell her she's going to work construction for 3 years as an iron worker. That's abuse. You can't do that. But you can say to her, you're going to vacuum the house for a week. Every day after school, you're going to come in and vacuum the house. So parents have to be smarter than their children, and they have to be able to have reasonable anger management. Now, maybe there is. If you're one of the parents that has raised a child from birth to 18 and you've never yelled at them, please raise your hand and please go on to my comment board and lie and say I've never raised my voice. Well, we have to be careful. We have to be careful of the things we say. Now, when you say to a child, you're in deep trouble, you can say that. If you say to a child, I'm going to rip your arm off and your head and then stuff your arm down the neck of your body, that probably is not going to fly well with another social worker. Yes, you want to say that, and yes, you might mean that, but damn, don't say it and don't do it. Now, the other thing I see all the time, and I don't like this, and that is where the mothers can't control their own children. And they'll say, wait till your dad comes home. And the child is going, I hope he has his girlfriend tonight because I don't want him to come home. Now, you can do this, and I'll stand by this because I think I could take this into parents who are on a jury, a court of law. If you've got a smaller child, now don't do this to a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old boy or girl, but you can still spank a child if you know what the hell you're doing. Number one, it is, again, a danger to themselves or to other people or the environment. They're setting fires or something. You got to be so damn careful that when you take that child after they've run you 2 miles in their room round and round the bed, they're up on the ceiling and you're trying to get them off the fan, when you bring them down, if you're going to spank them, make sure when you put them over your knee that you don't slam their face or their eye or something on the side of the bed. You've got to be careful not to twist their arms. You've got to be careful not to bend or break a leg. Now, I don't think it's appropriate to make a child pull their pants down anymore to get a spanking. My dad did that when I was a child, and I've been gay ever since. No, oh God, the gay people will be on my website. You know, you go look at my gay videos. You know that I'm an equal sexual opportunist. So anyway, I don't think these days that a child should have to pull their pants off. I don't think these days any child that's under 3 years old should get a spanking. Now, you can take their little hand, you know, and hit it once or twice and say no, no, and they'll go get a gun and chase you with it. But you can get away with that. And the younger kids between, you know, 5 and maybe 10, with their clothes on, and you've got to restrain their little bodies so that you don't have their arms coming back and breaking a finger, and you can't have their legs jumping around where you put bruises on them. Now, here's the other thing that used to go on when I was a father years ago. You could hit them with with a brush, a hairbrush. You could hit them with a fly swatter. I don't want to say you could hit him with a coat hanger. Even in my day, that was getting out there too far. But I suggest, as a social worker, you don't use anything but your hand. And of course, if you're 290 pounds like me, you've got to be very careful to know how strong you are compared to a small 8 or 9-year-old child. You've got to be careful. Now, how you hit them and where you hit them is very important. Okay, I never spank a child more than 3 times, and I will hit them on the butt 3 times to discipline them and to have their ears open up. Now again, you've got to make exceptions for retarded kids. You've got to make exceptions for everybody and everything. If you're going to spank a child today in 2012, you better be able to go in front of 12 people in the community and have them go, he didn't abuse her, or the mom didn't abuse her. If you're slapping kids, scratching kids, if you're pinching kids, which some cultures do for discipline, that's not going to fly in the United States. And anywhere that you're public, there are video cameras, and when you go out on a kid, those cameras are going to pick it up, and a lot of people, even me, sitting on a jury, would go, well, I don't know, that just went a little bit too far. So, be careful. Be a good parent. Love the kid first. And I have a piece of Mormonism that's left in me. It's called a rectum. No, it's not that. It's not that. It's if you discipline. Now, I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the whole phrase. If you correct another person or you discipline another person, after it's over, you come back to them with an increase in love and support and kindness. So that they won't think that you are an enemy. I believe that. I'm a master's level social worker, and you spank a child or you discipline them or ground them or steal their iPhone, and damn, when you steal the iPhones, make sure that you put it under the couch cushion, because the alarm will go off. They've got it set for this and that. Their friends will call them. There's music that comes out all the time, and you're laying in the back of the house and going, God, iPhone. You run out there, then you got to wake the kid up and go down and say, turn that damn thing off. So anyway, with iPhones, you put them under the cushion of the couch, and the kid will say, well, someone's going to sit on it. And I said, well, that's a good reason for you to get it back. Go up and clean that room. So love kids first, and wives, and I'm not suggesting that you restrain wives. Now, I have to tell you in the end here, this was years ago when restraining wives was acceptable. I had one little cute wife, and I don't remember, I'm sure it was me. 99% of all restraints are because of me. Well, anyway, she went what I call the Indian dance, and I'm not against Native Americans, but I've seen Indians dance a lot at BYU, and they howl and they dance in their feet and their costumes. It's a little chaotic. So this little gal, I was married to her. I must have said something or done something, and she went into the Indian dance, I call it. Well, I let them dance. You know, they're allowed to dance, the Indian dance. There's nothing wrong with that. Until they start kicking the mirror closet door that I've got to pay for and I've got to fix. Or they take the antique clock off of the shelf and they throw it down and they start dancing on that. Now, after 2 or 3 of those things and several warnings that I'm going to calm you I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to attack you, but we're going down. And we used to go down a lot, but not like this. So I just gently took her arms and sat her down on the floor and held her. And she strained and struggled and screamed and yelled. And I guess today that might be abuse. I don't know. Back in those days, it wasn't abuse. That was 280 years ago, where you could marry 14-year-old girls and they had no say, and they could Indian dance, and you know, you could slap the shit out of them. But I've never hit a wife. I've never hit a wife, and I've never restrained a wife, other than this one, who did go actually berserk. Now, I do have to tell you one more funny story of whether this is spousal abuse or not. I was married to another wife, and this is Jeannie. And Jeannie had quite a little personality and quite a little temper. And I guess we got into words or something, and I've learned when I get going, I leave the house. I get in the car, I drive away, and I tell them I'm coming back, but I'm so upset I don't want to scream, yell, slam doors, or act idiotic, and I don't like the Indian dance. So somehow we got in an argument, and I told her I'm going for a drive to calm down. And she said to me, "No, you're not." Now, today, that's spousal abuse. That if you can't leave the house or get away from the situation, and the other spouse is holding you or stopping you from any way of restraint, that's against the law today. Well, back then, it wasn't. So I got in the car, and I was following through, and I started backing out of the driveway. And we lived in a residential tract neighborhood in Missouri. And she came running out of the house. Now, she was a cheerleader when she was younger, but she was a pretty spry gal. I had some nice cars. You know, I love Corvettes. I love Z28s. I've had Cadillacs. I've had, oh gosh, a lot of nice cars. I've had turbocharged lasers and Chryslers, and so anyway, I had a nice car, and I was easily backing it out of the driveway. I wasn't squealing tires or letting the neighbors know. We were having a little domestic discussion. Well, Miss Cheerleader jumps on the hood of the car. She puts her head like this in the windshield. Now, she's a beautiful girl. I didn't mind that so much. I wish she'd put her butt in the window, but she put her face. And she was kind of ugly when she was mad, and I was kind of scared. And she holds on to the windshield wipers. Now, in the neighborhood, when you're driving down the damn street with a wife on the hood, holding the windshield wipers and screaming at the top of her lungs, people are going to think that you velcroed her there, that this is not voluntary on her part. But it was. It was voluntary. I didn't say, you know, well, screw you, just jump on my hood and ride. I didn't say that. But she was there. Now, I'm driving out of the driveway into the neighborhood, and the neighbors are coming out, and they're watching Mr. Bard and Mrs. Bard riding on the hood of the car. Now, I have never had experience. I've seen Smokey and the Bandit, and I've seen other kinds of... I was raised in California. I've been to Universal Studios, so I know some of the stuntmen. And I thought I'd take it up to 100 and then just slam on the brakes. I think she'd come off of there. I don't know. But I thought that was a little dangerous. So I'm just creeping. And because I didn't want to hurt the girl, it was just an argument. It wasn't a death-defying argument, and she was involving me in a death-defying event. So what I did is I thought the safest way to remove an Oklahoma cheerleader off the hood of your car is to turn the wipers on and the washers. What an asshat! So I turn the wipers on, and they're doing, and she can't hang on. And then I'm pushing the water thing. So she jumps off the hood, and then I went really fast because I knew she'd be pissed. She grabbed the bumper and climbed back on like a, you know, a stunt girl. So anyway, abuse, be careful. We need to love each other, and we need to to have patience and understanding. And if we get out of control and we can feel it in our mind, we need to get the hell out of there. We need to get away from the situation, away from the people that we're angry with. And I'll tell you a secret, and this is the greatest secret for disciplining children. My father, he only spanked me about 3 times in my whole life. 100 times each spanking, that wasn't abuse. No, he was never abuseful. And we had to pull our pants down. My brother and I, he'd say, go in your room and pull your pants down and get on your knees over your bed. You're going to get a spanking. Well, sometimes he wouldn't come in for hours. It was the worst thing, worrying about the spanking. How bad was it going to be? How angry is he going to be? And I use that now with my own kids. I'll say, you know what? You're going to get a spanking, but you're going to get it when I'm calm and when I'm in control, and you can sit in your room and worry about it. Oh my gosh. That was the worst punishment. I would have rather just been beat with a board with nails in it rather than laying there waiting for him to come in. So that's just a trick of the trade to, tell him it's coming, but it's coming when you're ready. Don't do it when you're angry. If the kid is throwing shit and they're breaking windows and whatever, you kind of got to move in there, and it looks like you're angry, to get them down and restrain them. But once you restrain them, geez, don't put weight down on them. Don't hold their little heads or their mouths. Just let them yell and, thrash around a little bit, and they get tired. They're just like a newborn baby. If you don't go into a newborn baby, it'll go to sleep from crying. I don't recommend that, but it's true. It's true. Children, once they're worn out, they will go to sleep. So, anyway, if a wife ever jumps on your windshield wipers, just make sure they work. In those days, I had cars where the wiper didn't work sometimes, and I would have still been driving around with a hood ornament that looked like an Oklahoma cheerleader. So anyway, be kind, be careful with kids. They're so precious, they're so young, and they're so stupid. They will chase you with knives. They will throw food at you. They will break mirrors, kick doors. They will do some damage. And you can warn them and warn them and warn them. I suggest you get a video camera in the house so that you can show she was on the ceiling, the social worker. This was not abuse. She was hanging on the ceiling fan going round and round. I needed to get her off that ceiling fan. So be careful and be loving. Thanks.